Sup with the sup, fellow sickos. I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. The NBA lottery happened, Grant, the NBA draft lottery. We're going to talk about the fallout, some of our biggest questions, storylines coming out of it, go through each team mostly very quickly to talk about, should they be sad that they fell, or what do we expect them to do with the pick? Before we get started, though, now that we're a couple days removed from everything, Grant, why was the Nico Harrison getting the number one pick anti-karma? Can you explain that to me?
I think it was all part of a grand plan. He deserves it. The Mavs deserve it. I can't imagine why anyone would have an issue with this. Were you like, what was your reaction to the conspiracy chatter? If you had one?
I'm just annoyed by it. Like, I don't think that they're rigging this. What would be the benefit of having like the Mavs get the number, like just so Luka could be on the Lakers was kind of the, hey, guess what? They lost in the first round. Was that scripted? Like, if it was scripted, right. Why are they losing in the first round? If this was scripted, let's be honest about the league office. You and I don't care. Well, we would love this series. But like, there's a possibility that there's just like an Indiana, Minnesota NBA finals.
Right.
And I don't think that the NBA would love that.
I would say if you were rigging things, you would probably start with maximizing ratings for your playoff games for the next TV deal. Yeah, no, I asked just because I was like, I don't know. My reaction is always just, oh, you're not a serious person. So, like if that's your
did my own researchy.
Right. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Okay. Having dispensed with that, what part, I mean,
well, I have to ask a question first.
Oh, great.
Look at who won. If you're watching on YouTube, it's up on the screen. The Mavs, the Spurs, and the 76ers did the top three picks. The Hawks won it last year. When they had a 1.8 or 1.2% chance or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at the new lottery system, Grant, do you think that it's broken or not having the impact it's intended? Or do you like the chaos of, the Jazz and the Wizards schlep through this season and they both end up with like the 5 and 6 pick rather than a top 3 pick?
So I've come across a lot of, this is just confirmation that the flattened lottery odds are a failure. Like this, look at the poor Jazz and the Wizards who tanked all year, and this is the result they get. That, I guess that's a separate issue, like whether that's fair to them. All I would say with like total conviction is this is achieving the desired result of lottery reform, which is to discourage full season tanking for the absolute worst records in the league, because the teams that basically did that, I mean, Charlotte, I guess, came out the best, and they've got the 4th pick. And it's not like the Hornets necessarily went into this. Like, I think Utah and Washington were the more egregious, like, of course they're tanking.
Right.
So I would say like mission accomplished. Whether that mission was like the right one is, I just think like the reaction to the process Sixers created this system. And this system is discouraging more process like Sixers tanking. It's had unintended consequences, I guess. And you can feel bad for the small market teams like Utah that maybe need the number 1 pick more than others because they can't get talent through the other channels. But I would just say, like, I don't know, man. Like, look at who are the 5 best players in the league this year. How many of them were the number 1 pick? So it's like, it's not, you don't just need the number 1 pick. Picking 5th or 6th, I know the odds are slightly worse. You're getting your cornerstone there, but they're not 0. And so I think I have almost no problem whatsoever with these results. I'm fine with it. I think it's good that it discourages full season tanking. And I think teams just need to adjust. Now, I would say, lastly, that it might make it so that the question between some might say, well, if we could like make the playoffs versus be like Dallas and go in the play-in and get smoked and we get the number 1, it's like, okay, you can organize your whole organizational philosophy around having a 1.8% chance at the top pick if you want to, but I don't think that's going to pan out most times. Anyway, where are you on it? Like, are you with me that like this is working and it's just a question of if you want it to work this way?
Right. And I think it is working. And the reason I don't largely ever, I'd be open to other ideas. And like Keith Parrish of the Fast Break Breakfast podcast has an idea where it's wins against certain teams, like it counts as a point after the in-season tournament. and so those points help influence your lottery odds, I still don't know that the outcome wouldn't be similar to when you're looking at the team, like when you're looking at the order of the lottery, like which teams had the best odds, like, or the not the best odds, but the outcome, if anything, like wouldn't have been more likely if there was a point system based on wins after the in-season tournament that Dallas or San Antonio or the Sixers, they wouldn't have, like the Sixers as an example, would have played maybe not Joel Embiid, but their other guys more and one more, like they might have won more games than the Jazz with their current collection of players.
Yeah.
With all that said, I'd be open to change, but there are other ways to build a winner than to just have the number 1 or the number 2 pick. You mentioned some of it. Look at some of the teams that are here. The Wizards have Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly. So like it's not like they're barren. The Jazz, yeah, they don't have a cornerstone type player. They have a bunch of assets that they can go out and try to trade for one. And so yes, it makes it harder. And I do sympathize with the fans that they don't want to see their team go all in and trade for a star because they don't think they're going to stay in a certain market. I think this forces front offices to become more creative with rebuilding. Now, karmically speaking, like I wasn't in love with the top 3. Like I would have preferred to have seen one of these teams get it, or the Nets, or even the Pelicans. But like this was the whole point. And so maybe it kind of, as you mentioned, like could it coax teams into making like shorter sighted decisions now where it's all these lottery odds don't matter as much? There is that unintended danger, but this is more chaotic, and the chaos was reinforced where I don't know if you were watching the lottery live, but the ESPN announcer said that the Sixers lost their pick.
Right.
Because like there was just so many, and I kind of understood it. I saw that, I was like, I don't think that's right, but there's so many literal balls in the air at this point that like it's hard to keep track of. So I appreciate it, but I do, if you're a Jazz fan, if you're a Wizards fan, if you're a Nets fan, certainly like I get it. But like none of these teams, like I guess the Nets and the Jazz come closest to being barren, and they have Brooklyn's in New York. They have a ton of cap space, a ton of assets. And then the Jazz, like they have just a ton of assets, a ton of flexibility, and some good players. So if you want to go all in on somebody, like make sure that they're under contract for a while if you're worried about keeping them. So I'm not completely dumping on the idea that I want to see the bad teams like infused with enough talent, but I don't necessarily think you should be rewarded for deliberately tanking.
Right. I agree with that. And I think like if you want to devil's advocate this a little bit, it seems like if what this is doing is discouraging like down to the studs, tear down, rebuild type things, you might be incentivizing teams to kind of hang out in the middle. And all we ever do, we're very guilty of it. I am of just ripping the Bulls for being unambitious and wanting 37 to 42 wins. And like, actually, maybe that's not a bad spot to be if you can get up to the top of the lottery. But again, the percentages are such that like, you should like, that's not a viable strategy to try to win 38 games and with a 2% chance vault from whatever 11 to 1 or something. But like from a fan perspective, maybe you want your team to be competitive night to night. And maybe this encourages teams to be like, you know what, let's try to win the games we can win and just let the chips fall where they may. And that's fine. Like the other thing too, is like the best odds anybody had to get number 1 were 14%. So like,
right.
Well, welcome to math. Like it was overwhelmingly unlikely that you Jazz or you Wizards were going to get number 1. Like your odds are tiny, right? Like, so I don't know. You can really be that disappointed if you're any of these teams.
The other thing is, could this, and maybe this skews too far into, well, is that Sam Hinkieing it, but could it force rebuilding teams to be more patient where they don't like, you can't live and die by every season because you're not guaranteed to get a top 3, a top 4 pick. And so now you could look at it 2 ways. Like, oh, well, now the Jazz and the Wizards fans have to like labor through all of this again. Mm-hmm. Maybe, but like that also might say like the Wizards, I think are a good example. Like they have Coulibaly and Alex Sarr and Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George. The top 2 of those guys like that, they might be good enough to be sort of your directional guy.
Sure.
And so I just, maybe this forces more patience like, because the Jazz, it was, this was their 3rd year of kind of being here, but like those first 2, they had to kind of blow up the team mid-season because they were too competitive. Right. So if you want to go that route, I don't think the NBA wants to see teams trying to lose for a longer period of times, but when we're talking about windows opening and shutting so quickly, maybe this is kind of a reminder that some things take time, and rebuilding through the draft is one of them.
Right. Maybe you encourage continuity this way. Like you give your young core a little longer to like, because it's not just like well, some of these guys are due for their second rookie deal or their rookie extensions or whatever, and we're not good enough, so we're going to just steer back into the tank, or like maybe it encourages patience. I think it definitely encourages, like, I feel like Will Hardy has got to be like, all right, can I try now? Can we like play some guy? Like, because look what it got us. And this season sucked, and we were playing with a hand tied behind our back most of the year. Thanks for the extension. I'm still being Will Hardy, by the way. But also, like, can I coach to win now? Would that be cool with and I think, like, if you're the Jazz, I think that's the approach you have to take, is like, let's put the best team on the floor. And if the rookies develop, great. If not, like, okay, then they weren't any good anyway. Because if we got really great cornerstone pieces, they will emerge. It's not like, nobody could keep SGA down by being traded and then by being on a bet. Like, he figured it out. So, like, I think there's a possibility that this changes team behavior in a lot of like good ways. Maybe. I don't know. We'll still have tankers, but maybe they think harder about it.
And if it's not good ways, it's certainly more chaotic ways, because I think, look at this draft order, and we're going to get into that in a second. Anyone who's listening to this podcast, don't pretend like you don't love offseason chaos. Like, that is part of NBA fandom, generally speaking. You're looking at the teams that won some of the top picks. Might they move them? But now you're also getting the Jazz, the Wizards, the Nets of it all. Are they going to be more aggressive in trying to make immediate upgrades because it didn't necessarily happen the way they wanted it in the draft? And so if you like offseason chaos, this promotes that. I don't think it's broken. I'd be open to alternatives, but by and large, the Mavs winning the number 1 pick, because I feel for Mavs fans, it's sort of like, I get it. That's the one that I'm just like, Nico Harrison, fire him at least. I don't want him being in control of Cooper Flag. Or
you don't deserve this.
Speaking of, so the Mavs have the number 1 pick. What the early reports are, and there's never any, disinformation at this time of year, Grant, that the Mavs are going to keep this pick and draft Cooper Flag, which runs totally counterintuitive to what they were thinking when they prioritized Anthony Davis in the Luka Doncic trade. Wouldn't the most hilarious outcome, not for Mavs fans, but of all this, be that they trade the number 1 pick for Kevin Durant, citing long-term aspirations?
Yeah, it is going to force them to sort of, they're going to have to at least say some things that are pretty cognitively dissonant. Like, they'll have to, here's what'll happen. They're going to really sell the idea of Cooper Flag is ready right now. He's ready defensively to contribute to a winning organization. And, like, that's not going to be a lie, probably, but he's still a rookie. They'll have to really kind of talk out of both sides of their mouths. They got to take him, right? That you can't. I think you just have to take him.
You want them to draft somebody else, Dylan Harper?
No. I mean, as opposed to trading it.
I would agree, but as Brian Windhorst said, Brian Windhorst's reaction, by the way, on NBA Countdown, they asked about it, and his first reaction was "bro." That's all. Brian Windhorst saying "bro" was hysterical.
Sounds like every kid in elementary school right now, bro.
That the Mavs have wanted Giannis for a while, and so now you have sort of the trade chip, and also it would cost more stuff than just the number 1 pick, I'm assuming. I think one of the keys to it, I'm drafting Cooper Flag, and in some ways, the Kyrie Irving injury, does it kind of help in a couple different like areas, because now you can test, you need Cooper Flag to be on the ball and play make.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
What that is. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the one problem is, if you view him as a 4, does that mean Anthony Davis is a 5? Or because you're going to put the ball in his hands, can he play with Anthony Davis and Derek Lively?
That is going to be very interesting.
I think they take the pick and keep him, but I do think you have to ask yourself, if you're Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving's injured, they now have you might have considered yourself the tentpole of the short and long-term future. Cooper Flag is now that. I don't know. They're being pulled in a bunch of different directions, and it is all by their own hand.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, thinking of the roster, the very first thing I thought of was, well, Flag's a 4 as far as we can tell. Maybe he can play 3 on offense or whatever. But so then, like, Anthony Davis doesn't want to play center, and now you also still have Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, and
PJ
like
Washington, is he a 2? Is Cooper Flag
right? Like, what? It is all their own fault, like, for sure. And so I guess, does any part of you feel bad for Flag? Like, there are a lot of worse places he could have gone, I guess, but like, this is not ideal.
No, and I don't know enough about him as the person, but his reaction reminded me of, remember when Joel Embiid, I think he was behind, but during his he just looked miserable when the results of it were announced. Mm-hmm. That's what Cooper Flag looked like in his interview. Yeah. And look, I just don't trust the organization, nor should you, but I think Cooper Flag fits this motif that I would argue Nico Harrison is too married to, which is defense wins championships when it's defense and offense. And the Mavs
Right.
don't have enough of the latter, but they have plenty of size in the former. So they're built to muck up a ton of games. But I just feel like this is still sort of a pivot point to me where just wouldn't shot like now do you look at moving Anthony Davis, if not over the offseason by the trade deadline? Or would it even shock you if they went out and traded for Giannis using the number 1 pick?
What that would shock me. Well, that'd be more surprising. The Anthony Davis trade is one I would be looking at really hard. And it's just like, you got to fire Harrison first and then bring someone else in to do that. Cause it's just like, how is he going to possibly make that happen? Also, I don't want him executing trades after the last one, but like that, the more I think about it, the more moving Davis and resetting your timeline, even though we just talked about like how you don't want to bottom out. Like, I don't think you're bottoming out if you're built around Cooper Flag and you still got Derek Lively there. Like, Lively Flag, that's fun. Like, that's a fun 4-5 for however long it can stick together. I would look really hard at trading Davis to balance out this roster, to get some offense, get playmaking. Whenever Kyrie's back, fine, you decide what to do with him contractually then. They'll pick up his player option and just not play. But like, that's the most intriguing path to me, is reorienting around a team that does not have Davis on it.
Yeah, I would agree, but what do you think is more likely, that they trade Anthony Davis or they trade Cooper Flag or this pick?
I think it is more likely that they will trade Anthony Davis.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can, like, you just probably got the fans back, like with the Flag hype and hope and possibility. If you then trade that for someone, like, you just, next year can't be your concern. You don't have Kyrie Irving. There's that massive salary going to nothing. I don't know that either of them are super likely, but like, you just cannot trade this pick.
Now, let's say they are going to trade Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Is salary plus the Lakers 2027 first round pick enough to get Anthony Davis back in Los Angeles? The thing I've thought about, though, is because if you were getting in on the Giannis sweepstakes and you would have him and Anthony Davis, if you were New Orleans and you know that Dallas wanted Giannis, would you accept Derek Lively and Dallas's 2031 first round pick to then send out the Bucks' next 2 first-round picks to Dallas or Milwaukee so that they're getting back control in 26, 27?
Oh, that New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans is in an interesting spot, huh?
Them in Portland, because Portland has 28, 29, and 30.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're a team that wants Giannis, like, Portland and New Orleans kind of have, like, secret skeleton keys to unlock these negotiations.
Think about that, because when you're talking, I'm working on offseason, like, chaos rankings, and it's just like, who can do the most crazy stuff? I think New Orleans needs to be higher because they can be like, hey, you want these Bucks picks, anybody? They're looking pretty good the next couple of years. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Is that enough? Is that too much? I can't.
I don't know.
What's interesting is if you're the Pelicans and you say, well, if they're going to trade Giannis, they're going to suck. We would want to keep those picks. But if the Bucks aren't getting their own picks back, I would assume they're prioritizing a return that keeps them relevant in the interim while then getting other teams' picks. So those picks are going to be inherently less valuable than you think they are because the Bucks, like, they're more valuable to the Bucks than anybody. And if the Bucks don't have them, they're going to structure their future around not having them. So they're not going to go into this and just be the worst team in the league.
Right. Yeah. And again, we just spent time talking about how that's not a bankable strategy pretty clearly anymore. Like, you don't want to just, we'll bottom out, but at least we got our own picks. It's not yielding results lately. Yeah, that's fascinating. I don't know. I actually think the number 2 pick is more likely, is extremely likely to be traded.
We'll get to that, but the last question I wanted to ask you, is there any, like, if you're just in Dallas's position and knowing what they're trying to do, is there any player that you would think, like, is there a mega deal where it's like you're giving up the number 1 and other stuff and getting Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and maybe you're sending out Kyrie Irving in that, or is it like, or even if it was just Devin Booker, is there a player that would convince, because Giannis in theory is good enough to say, hey, if you're trying to win now, this makes sense, but he also kind of doesn't check enough of the boxes that the Mavs need without Kyrie Irving, at least.
So if I'm in charge, I won't speak to what the people that are actually in charge would do. If I'm in charge of the guys that are realistically available that I think I could get, like, I don't even know that you could, I guess you probably could get Giannis with this number 1 pick. If they have the best offer, which is a stretch maybe, just considering what else some of these other teams could offer. I think Giannis is someone that maybe I would look at, and I'm then trading Davis most likely in that hypothetical.
So you're trading
in a separate
Davis
deal
and the number 1? Or you're
Yeah, I'm
trading Davis?
in separate deals just because
Okay.
I'm trying to like we got Giannis. Let's what can we do now? But
But you
I
wouldn't trade it for Devin Booker.
I don't think so.
What about Jaylen Brown?
I would do it for Booker before I would do it for Brown. Because then you have if you have Booker and Davis and two other guys that play center and no Kyrie for a year, I guess Booker and Davis is a core that could get you pretty far. But like, how long is Davis going to hold up? I don't know. I just want Flag. I think it would take a lot. Like it would take a ridiculous amount to get me to trade this pick.
The right decision is to take Flag, but I'm torn between, do I trust the Mavericks to make the right decision, and is this the organization that I'm going to trust to maximize? Because if the way to maximize Flag is not necessarily trying to throw him into this immediate timeline, it's to give him the time and space to develop. And maybe the Kyrie injury forces them to do that, but as long as Anthony Davis is on this team, and you're looking at what Nico Harrison said after I think probably the most bizarre team that could have possibly won this lottery, right? Maybe Philly.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I mean, Philly would just be it'd be simple. They've needed a 4 forever. Like they just throw him out there. He's great. Like Dallas is by far the weirdest.
So we move on to the Spurs, who get when I saw they like jumped and then they weren't number 4, I was just like, oh my God, they're gonna get Cooper Flag, which is they didn't need it. And I wouldn't say they deserve, doesn't have anything to do with it, but that would have been something I would have loved. Oh, Cooper Flag and Wemby, like from a basketball perspective, they get number 2. And I think you were getting into this. It would be very unspurs-like to move this pick. But if Dylan Harper's the pick, you have De'Aaron Fox there, you have Steph Castle. The Spurs to me suddenly feel like the favorite to land Giannis because of having the number 2 pick.
And they're also my favorite landing spot for Giannis. So I'm really like trying to speak that one into existence because Flag would have been cooler, I think, just because Flag and Wemby for 10 years or whatever. But Giannis and Wemby is like I would very much like to see that. And I don't know if they'll have the best offer, but I think the Spurs can get real close. And especially if you assume Giannis gets some say in it, like I think if I'm him, I would prefer going to San Antonio over Houston. I just like people could disagree, but
and I think they could have the best. This is contingent, I guess, on a lot of teams, but like when you look at Dallas might have enough, but like if the Spurs wanted to go out and reacquire some of Milwaukee's own picks, like they have the stuff to go do it.
Yep. And like they also like, I don't know, do the Bucks want De'Aaron Fox? Because we could I guess like if you're trading this pick and you would have assumed it was Harper, then Fox, you just do hang on to him. But like, there's a lot of, you could trade Castle. Would the Bucks be interested in Castle as like, hey, there's this new guy, he's the face of the franchise. Like, there's definitely lots of different ways the Spurs could make this happen.
I think you need to prioritize keeping one of, and I'm assuming the number 2 pick goes out. So then you need to prioritize keeping one of Castle or Fox just to have that. You could bring Chris Paul back, sure, Trey Jones back, but you want someone else who in theory is working from a guard spot or a wing spot that can handle the ball.
Right.
And if you give up both Castle and Fox, then I'm hoping you're keeping the number 2 pick. Like to be fair, like in theory, the Spurs could have had a great offer for Giannis without the number 2 pick. So if they decide, you know what, Dylan Harper's the guy, we'll move Fox and Castle and other stuff and maybe they could. But I think you need to prioritize keeping at least one of those 3 assets. If
you had to choose between keeping Fox and whatever he's going to extend for, or Castle, which way are you going?
Ooh. If Giannis is on the team?
Giannis is on the team.
I'm probably going with keeping Fox. I trust the shooting more.
Yeah. And also then you're also wrestling with the because the Castle would be the long-term play. We're projecting improvement and by 2027, he's going to be really great. And Fox is already kind of on the decline, maybe but we've spent plenty of time talking about you can't mess around with these windows. If you have Wemby and Giannis, everyone else on the roster can be 34 years old and it makes sense. That's probably the way you got to go.
Do you think though that the expense of it all, because now all of a sudden you have Giannis on his deal, Fox going to be on his extension, then you all Victor's eventually going to be on his supermax. Do you is that in the back of your mind at all to where, well, maybe it makes more sense to move De'Aaron Fox because Steph Castle is still cost controlled?
I think if you have Giannis and Wemby, you're trying to win the championship today. I think even starting next year. So like if you could trade Fox for someone that was slightly better than him, but older and more expensive, you probably should do it. Like just because you're trying to do it right now, right? Like I think that's the mentality the Spurs should have.
And I would say what happened in Boston with the Jason Tatum injury is kind of just a reminder that you go for it when you think you can get it.
Yep.
Can they have the best of all worlds where do they look at what if they just traded for Kevin Durant and like used this pick? Like, because you're not trading number 2 for Kevin Durant, I don't think. You're trading a bunch of other stuff. Because it's the Spurs, and now Greg Popovich, still the team president, and how much say he's going to have in the decision making. Trading the number 2 pick feels like De'Aaron Fox, acquiring him, even though it was a modest cost, that felt brash for that organization.
The Spurs don't do that. They have not historically.
So I almost wonder, like, they could get there with, they have Devin Vassell and Harrison Barnes and Keldon Johnson and a bunch of other picks. They just decide we're really going to, like, blur the fuck out of all of these timelines, and we're going to have Castle and Wemby and Fox and KD and the number 2 pick.
They have so many ways to go. So the more we talk about this, they have to be the Giannis team. I think they can win the bidding war. I think, and I think they should be the most motivated to do it. And I think the upside is highest because Giannis on Houston. Well, are we forgetting anybody else besides that Giannis might realistically go to?
The Knicks.
Okay, the Knicks. Sure, the Knicks.
Just kidding.
Yeah. I just think
the Thunder would be like if they end up losing to the Nuggets, the Thunder would be a team that the teams that I think you could look at and say have the assets to just get it done and maybe get Milwaukee back some of their own picks or give them enough assets and like player equity to where the Bucks are okay shorting everybody else's future and rebuilding that way. Houston, OKC, and San Antonio right now.
Yeah. I mean, OKC is just like its own species of team. I don't know what to do with them. I'm going to San Antonio, if I'm being honest. I'm getting on board. I'm trusting the Wemby thing is going to be special. I think too, someone like Giannis that spent all this time like being hyper loyal to one organization, I think he might like the San Antonio, I don't know, legacy, like that kind of thing might appeal to him.
What would you think? So if you had to rank the outcomes of them keeping the pick, them trading it for Giannis, or them keeping the pick and then trading for or let's frame it this way. Let's assume they're doing something. Are they more likely to trade this pick and go for Giannis or keep this pick and trade for Kevin Durant?
I think they would be more likely to trade the pick and go for Giannis because that Durant's age, we're talking win now, but like KD's at the point where it's like, how much longer really can he be at that level? And like the last couple of years in Phoenix do not recommend him well as like someone that Wemby, if he needs this, can look to and be like, that's who I'm modeling my like approach after and my like mentality, all that stuff. Like Giannis is the guy where he'd be like, just watch him, go lift with him and like see, approach things like he does. That's another thing I think the Spurs should value in Giannis.
Just there are so many outs and options,
as
you said.
Yeah.
Next team up at number 3, the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Daryl Morey, who, according to James Harden, has never told a lie, said that they intend to keep the pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it's the Ace Bailey or the Dylan Harper pick, it seems like. What do the Sixers do here?
So I would give them 2 options. One is you keep the pick and you use it and you pick the best player available because you need a rookie scale deal to offset your long-term commitments. And like, I don't think it's a part of a win now package for another veteran or like, cause I really don't like Ace Bailey and I don't know that he's going to wind up being the 3rd pick, but I might trade down if anybody's interested in moving up. Like, I think if you could trade down a few spots and pick up some other asset, that's what I would look at. But I don't want to, if I'm the Sixers, use this pick in a package unless it's like helping me get off of Embiid's deal and like a broader reset. I don't want to trade it away just for like, oh, we got a 7th man or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that approach.
The trading down is interesting, or even just, is there a scenario where, like Brooklyn really wanted to be in the top 3, I'm sure, and they have Philly's pick in 2028, right? As of now. So do you trade Like, is there a package there where it's what is it Brooklyn at number 8 plus the
Mhm.
Sixers 2028 pick for this number 3 pick? The salaries gets complicated, but maybe can you shoehorn Cam Johnson in there at all? Who would be a
Mm.
really good fit in
Oh, that's
Philly,
interesting.
maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of the options given, like, don't you think it's most likely they keep the pick and just use it? That feels like, I know Morey's not to be trusted, but like, I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Does it get more interesting if for some reason Dylan Harper's still on the board? Because now it's okay. We have Maxey and Grimes and McCain and Dylan Harper.
Well, yeah, but I think just because of the positional glut, like that makes it
Isn't
a
that an
harder.
overlap? No, I would say
No, yeah, it is. But how much do you care? And
I think
then like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like after I'll wonder how I'm gonna feel about, because I 1 and 2 is like, all right, it's just Flag and Harper. And then after that, I feel like Bailey is gonna be a very polar, and maybe already is, like a really polarizing guy.
maybe. Would there be a structure Philly calls number 3 and Joel Embiid for the number 1 pick plus salary from Dallas? Dallas has to say no, right? Or is Nico like, oh, Davis and Embiid, like that might make a lot of sense.
I mean, how good is Joel Embiid on defense now? Is that all that matters?
I just don't. Maury even said this, like the Sixers are such a wild card because of Embiid's health specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think you almost have to keep this pick because you want to give yourself the ability to, if we need to pivot into a future of just built around Tyrese Maxey, then plus who? Is it McCain? Is it Grimes? Give yourself, is it going to be, Ace Bailey or Dylan Hart, whoever they wind up with? I think you need to give yourself, it's not more bites at the apple, it's just more exit ramps based off what happens with Embiid.
Well, and like, it's a little weird, don't you think, that, you've got major commitments financially to Embiid, George, and Maxey. And so you should value a guy who might actually contribute in a year or two on a rookie scale deal. But like, does Embiid have a year or two? Like when is the good Embiid year, if ever, going to happen going forward? Like, they might be gone, but there might, 2 years from now might be better than next year if he stays healthier and doesn't have to have another surgery. Like, you do need production on the cheap, and this pick could get it for you. But like, I don't know how many second year guys really can fulfill, like, I don't know, like a starting role on a really good team. It's a weird needle to thread.
The Charlotte Hornets end up at number 4. I don't hate this spot for them. Like, it could just be VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey, I feel like, will be the 3 or 4. Like, I kind of, plus Brandon Miller and LaMelo, I love that setup.
Yeah, I like it too. It makes, I mean, they're pretty easy because unless it's like, I guess, Harper won't be there, but it's someone that's like, oh, he's our primary ball handler, assuming LaMelo's around. Like, you don't draft that guy probably.
Right. If you were to, like, they kind of needed to end up in number 2 if you were hoping for their offseason chaos to be, because the Cooper Flag, you just pair with LaMelo and Brandon Miller, figure it out. But if it was Dylan Harper, maybe that gave you something like, oh, should we trade LaMelo? So they needed to end up maybe in 2 or 3, I feel like, to have made it. But Cooper Flag, this would have been a fun destination. Him and LaMelo and Brandon Miller would have been super fun.
For sure. Do you think, do you think this pick, certainly you're right. Had it been 2, oh man, this is our ticket. We can move LaMelo and like just reorient around a new lead guard. Like, at 4, it almost feels like if you're going to trade LaMelo, having the number 4 pick doesn't like move the needle one way or the other. I feel like you're either going to do it because it's the right call, or you're not. It's not going to have anything to do with this pick.
Correct. I mean, there's like none of the teams in front of them 4 plus LaMelo. Oh man, 4 plus LaMelo for number 1. Maybe you include other stuff in there. I mean, if Dallas is all about the now, LaMelo's young. I don't know what you're thinking about him and Kyrie moving forward, but him and Davis are kind of an intuitive fit.
I think you're getting an additional fan revolt if you do that in Dallas.
I'm assuming.
Let's hope for it.
What's the Fox News line? I'm just asking questions, Grant. I'm just asking questions. Number 5, I think this is just when you're looking at like what team needed a franchise centerpiece the most. Statistically, they're at 5. Like, that's not some huge outlier. Is this the most painful result, like, for a fan base? Is just Utah's now in, like, they're not in Edgecombe or Bailey or Harper, let alone Flag territory. It's Trey Johnson or Jeremiah Fears, Con Knurple. I don't like.
I was going to say I've seen Knipple mocked as high as 4, and if the shoe fits, I feel like it's just, hopefully he falls to 5. He's not going to go that high, but a lot of smart people think he's going to be a really good pro. That works.
could you see if like the top 4 are off the board? Unless I don't have Trey Johnson. I don't have strong thoughts on any of these guys aside from Cooper Flag yet. I haven't begun my draft prep. But like, unless you feel strongly about Trey Johnson, do you think there's a chance just Utah, okay, they're heading into year 4 of their rebuild, still don't have a clear-cut cornerstone. Could they just be a team that's just like putting this pick on the table, like seeing what's out there, or like making a trade to maybe accelerate their process a little bit? Or no, you don't think that would be Danny Ainge's style? They extend Will Hardy, the whole 9.
It depends on how committed they are to whatever process they're following, because you would have to look at these last few years and say like, all right, guys, we got to start trying to win now, because this whole like, 1 foot in, 1 foot out a couple of years ago and actually trying to tank, we're not getting the guys we need. Let's just trade for one. I mean, the best player they've acquired recently is Markkanen, and that's someone that they traded for. So I don't think you could rule that out and say that's just not what the Jazz are doing, because they've been doing one thing for 3 years now and it's not getting you anywhere. What do you think about them? Like, can you package this pick with Markkanen and like try to move up? You probably can't get number 1,
no,
but like you could, if I don't know, if you're not sure about
the Spurs, if you did that with the Spurs, because Lauri Markkanen and Victor Wembanyama's
that's
more of an intuitive fit than him and Giannis, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that fit. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, just the shooting would be scary. I don't know. There's a lot of. I mean, maybe that's the other thing. The Spurs could just get Markkanen without trading number 2 right. or anything else. Like if they want him, they can have him.
Would you trade number 5 for LaMelo if you were Utah?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think so. Not knowing a ton about the 2 through 15 of this draft, but yeah, I think I would.
Do you think this spot makes it more or less likely that a Markkanen trade is on the table for Utah in the offseason?
I don't know that it affects it that much, because I was like kind of poking around. Is it a tool to move him? I don't know if you need to attach, like, I don't know if we've reached the point with Markkanen where you got to attach like super high level assets to trade him. So I don't know that I don't view it as
you might as well keep him since you're not.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Our next team, the Wizards, coming in at number 6. I mean, they would have been. I mean, you have Koulibaly, Sarr, and Cooper Flag would have been a heck of a defense.
Yeah.
Bob Carrington, heck of a defensive core. I'm sure this team. I'm like low key fascinated by for this offseason. Where I'm not predicting they would trade this pick, but it's okay. Like we've now gone through 3 years of getting the high draft picks here. Do they look at like just something? Like, are they trying to accelerate their process in any sort of way to where I don't think their biggest need to me feels like still a floor general, and maybe like I don't know, Jeremiah Fears should probably still be on the board here, but I don't know if there's enough of like, is Trey Johnson really that guy? Is he even still on the board? I'm just curious. The old Wizards I would have expected to be like, oh, they're going to do something reckless or aggressive. But I think that under Will Dawkins and Michael Winger, they're going to continue to stay the course. They'll use this pick. They will continue to futz and fiddle on the margins. Maybe they'll take on some more bad money and they can use, like, are they finding a taker for Marcus Smart's expiring contract? Does Chris Middleton pick up his player option? But I think this is just sort of, they wanted a higher pick, but this I don't think is going to materially change their plans in any way.
Yeah,
I will say, sorry, I think it does increase the importance of both Koulibaly and Alex Sarr and their developmental arcs, though.
I agree. I think my very first thought when they fell was just like, well, this makes it simple. This is just best player available. Let's move on. Like that's, the Wizards have what feels to me like a really long leash. And they can just, I don't think they need to accelerate anything or do anything a conventional rebuilder like would not do.
Next up at number 7, the New Orleans Pelicans, which the most interesting thing about all this, they fell to 7, quote unquote. They fell, there was 3 spots relative to where their record was. Zion Williamson being on the day for like, what do you make of that?
That was, I mean, the obvious takeaway is, well, they're not trading that guy. They just put him front and center, right? Like that feels very strange. Like very like of like why even like do you think he wanted to do that? It seems like maybe he did.
Did he miss like his weigh-in and he checked in over and they're like, look, we're going to overlook this if you just go represent us?
I just don't understand. So could it just be that the Pelicans are projecting like, this is our guy still? Like what of course we sent him. Like why, this is the face of the franchise. No issues here.
do you think it would be cruel if they sent him and then just moved him? Right?
Yeah, it would be. Well, I don't know if cruel is what I would describe.
I
but
guess
like,
if he asked for out, it's different. But by like all reporting, it hasn't come to that.
right.
And I was not expecting. I don't pay attention to like the drama of everyone probably had these lists already and knew. I wasn't paying attention. I saw him on there. I was like, oh shit! Like that is not what I was expecting.
You just hired Joe Dumars, right? Like I'm sure I've seen Joe Dumars represent teams before. Like just send Joe Dumars. He's the new face. Like why? I don't. One of the weirdest parts of the whole lottery for sure is that Zion was there.
Now, how close? If you're keeping Zion, you're still just keeping this pick, right? You're not like especially with DeJounte Murray injured, you're not like, under an angst to move anything. But I was going to ask though. Well, I guess you never answered my question. If Dallas came to you and said, "We'll give you our 2031 pick and Derek Lively for those 2 Bucks picks, the swap and the like whatever to send those along," would you do it as New Orleans?
I don't know. Those Bucks picks are pretty valuable. I do like Lively. I think I'd probably hold on to the Bucks picks, honestly.
Fair. Now, how close are we? I don't know really what their plan would be from here, but how close are you? You offer the Bucks their picks back and Zion Williamson for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, how close are you you also have a centerpiece and you get your next 2 draft picks back. The centerpiece, of course, is injury prone.
But you've got those partial guarantee protections and all the whatever the voiding clauses are on Zion. I think that gets scuttled by Giannis saying like, I don't want to go to New Orleans. You got to do better than that.
Now, what if you're the Bucks and you don't care because like if you're Portland and New Orleans comes to you and says, how many of those like Bucks picks can we get for Zion? And all of a sudden you're turning around and let's say you're giving the Bucks back their next 4 draft picks.
Well, then, oh man. Yeah, that would be, well, again, we just spent time talking about like how much it's nice to have control, but like you can never guarantee that those picks are going to get you the cornerstones. I wonder if that's going to be like a thought in the back of a lot of teams' minds. 4 of your own firsts back for, again, Giannis is going to have control, but like maybe you talk him into it. I don't know. Or there's a third team.
When they use this pick, I hope they bring in some shooting, or I guess you could make the case they need like another playmaker type. So Jeremiah Fears could fit, but what do you shoot? Like 28% at school. So from 3. But yeah, that was the most fascinating thing to come out of this for me was Zion Williamson being on the day. Like that was
strange.
That was wild. Number 8, the Brooklyn Nets. This is rough. I mean, they have a 2-year window in which to tank. But what I've been telling people when they ask me about it, they owe their 2027 pick to Houston, and then they have all their own picks. So it's just like kind of you have to suck it up for 1 year. But this is still not what they set out to do. When you mentioned the trade up with Philly, like this feels like that's what I would be exploring. It like the Nets should be open to anything. I don't know if you saw the reporting though from Brian Lewis of the New York Post that they're like ready to pounce on Giannis.
I did see that.
They can trade 13 first-round picks this summer, which is insane. But like, if none of those are the Bucks' own picks, they need players, and the Nets just don't have players that are going to help Milwaukee direct the next phase of their rebuild. And ultimately, for the amount of picks you would have to give up to either get the Bucks back their own picks or just give a viable package, that just feels no. Don't do that, Brooklyn. Like because you still need to put so much in place after a Giannis trade.
That's the thing, and from Giannis's perspective, like big market, that's cool. Like I think. It seems like Jordi Fernandez is well, you can never tell. I was gonna say it seems like the right coach, but it's like it's very different to coach a team that has no expectations. I don't know. I don't know that you have enough as Brooklyn if you add Giannis to this group. Like you're still just looking for 2 or 3 other high end players to put around.
One of Claxton or Cam Johnson's going out to Milwaukee as well,
right? Yeah, it's pretty close to like blank slate territory. If you add Giannis and then it's like, well, how many picks did it cost to get him? And then what do we have left to build a roster immediately? I think it makes more sense. I keep just viewing this from Giannis's perspective because I do think he's going to have an immense amount of agency over this, or at least I feel like the Bucks will grant him that.
If you were Brooklyn, would you do something like that where it's giving up 8 and that Sixers 2028 first rounder to move up to number 3?
That makes sense for them, doesn't it? Like maybe you're getting again, I don't love 3 if it's Bailey, but maybe it's not. And then you get something akin to a cornerstone. I think they are a team that makes sense to move up. I don't know if I feel that way about a lot of these other like later lottery teams.
I'm with you there. Number 9, the Toronto Raptors. I don't really know what to make of the direct. They have Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl. Number 9 feels like a vehicle through which you can look at it and say they're going to get pretty expensive. So this is a cost-controlled rotation player, hopefully. Or you could frame it as they're kind of under pressure to make a pretty big jump. And do they look at moving this pick and seeing if they can get what in here? Different type of 5 that maybe stretches the floor, just more floor spacing in general? I don't know.
Yeah, and also like they played they gave significant minutes to like 4 different rookies last year between like Shed and Mobo and Jameson Battle, and Jacoby Walter didn't play quite that much, but down the stretch he was showing up a lot more. I'm sure I'm probably even forgetting somebody. So like you do have some cost control. I don't know if any of those guys are going to be good enough to like feature in like a rotation of a good version of the Raptors. But yeah, they if you're gonna be built around Ingram, Barnes quickly on those numbers, you kind of do need to just hope that number 9 turns into somebody that's in the rotation, I guess. This doesn't it feel like it's May and it's already like the 25-26 feeling on the Raptors is already like, I don't have a sense of this team. Like I don't get it.
Right. I don't even know what they like. Would you do number 9 for Kristaps Porzingis? So be number 9 in salary, or is that too rich with Porzingis, his injury history going into the final year of his deal? Probably too rich.
I mean, a little bit. You'd have to be pretty sure Porzingis was going to hold up, which I guess you can't be. But like he makes a lot of sense on this team.
Would this be a good Anthony Davis team if the Mavs decided to shop him?
If you keep Jakob Poeltl and he gets to play power forward, I guess.
Number 10, they don't need it. They should trade this pick because I don't know how we couldn't even get Reed Shepherd playing time. What are we doing at number 10? The Rockets.
Yeah.
That would have been another wild had they just won the lottery. By the way, with the Suns pick would have just been hysterical. But then Cooper Flagg added to this team would have just been stupid.
God.
You should, we talked about go check out our Rockets offseason look ahead. We were kind of, if the right opportunity to go all in presents itself, do it.
Yep.
But I'm not saying they need to use this pick to do that, but I'm absolutely looking at this pick. Forget about a star, but like, can we get some more offensive creativity, shot making, floor spacing in here? What can you get with this pick is what I'm immediately asking myself if I'm Houston.
I think that's the right way to approach it, just because of the glut of young players coming due for extension, some of which have already signed them. And just like, you're already way over indexed on like youngish and very young guys that we are hoping develop into, like bona fide playoff starters. Some of them have like and I don't know what you're getting at 10. Yeah, this needs to be part of a trade package, or you're trading a bunch of other guys, I guess, and like clearing the decks because you really like whoever you get at 10, but that seems unlikely.
Would you do number 10 in Jalen Green for Desmond Bane?
Desmond Bane's value feels kind of towards its low right now, doesn't it?
But I guess he's still better than Jalen Green.
I probably would say that about Jalen Green too. Yeah, I think I would. I mean, Bane is just few guys look less reliable as like a high-end scorer than Green right now. So I think you probably do that if you're the Rockets.
I'm just trying to think of like what would be like the not all-in move for them that would like who's another guy that sort of checks that box for them.
Bane is right in the wheelhouse there. Who else is in the Bane tier of players? Like someone like, well, even he doesn't really address like what, you know what I mean? I mean, first of all, I guess we're just forgetting that Reed Shepherd's going to run the show next year, and they won't need a playmaker.
Honestly, I want them to trade however many players they need to open up playing time for Reed Shepherd. Is like that's my off-season agenda for the Rockets.
That's you know what, we all have our interests.
But yeah, they're a team where it's like we're not playing necessarily keep or trade, but I have no interest in them adding. I mean, they could also say though, like, we need another cost controlled guy because all of these players are about to get paid.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think we definitely are aligned on like they got to just get somebody in that upgrades the offense, and a 10th pick isn't going to do that.
Well, here's not the move, but I'll ask you about, you said Bane tier of player. Hat tip, I forgot already the YouTube commenter that said it. It was before the lottery. Said, would you give up Jalen Green plus the Suns pick for Tyler Hero?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Imperfect guy, but like fits what they need for sure, and you could cover for him. Yeah, I think I might do that.
Interesting discussion there. I feel like my guess would be Rockets fans say no to both of the things we proposed.
Yeah, well.
Number 11, Mr. Hughes, the Trailblazers. too big, too good on defense, and yet they're sort of, this doesn't hurt because I still think, I'm going to be brutally honest now, rather than lie to you, Grant. I lie to you all the time. This is going to be one of those times. Scoot Henderson is the only possible bite at the cornerstone apple they have. I don't see it from Shaedon Sharpe. I can't get there if you think he's going to be the best player on a contender. I think it would be, I guess if you're playing the odds, you could say this team does not have the best player on a contender right now. So checking in at 11 kind of sucks. At the same time, what have we said about them since the preseason? They just have so many dudes. I'm curious to see if they look at moving this pick to try and make more of an immediate jump based off how they finish the season, because they have the potential right now to be so good defensively. Like, they're just so big, so versatile defensively. Does number 11 and what get you someone who comes in and really jazzes up the offense a little bit?
Or can you use 11 to get off of some of the salary you don't want? Like, is Brooklyn in?
You can't use number 11 to do that, though, right?
I don't know if it's like, hey, Brooklyn, you can have 11 and well, yeah, I was gonna say like 11 and Jeremy Grant, and already Brooklyn's like, sorry.
What about 11 and Jeremy Grant for Cam Johnson? That's just not. That's too much for Brooklyn to be like. Yes, not enough. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it's enough. Maybe
what about Ayton?
Ayton's the next name on the list. Can you go 11 and Ayton to Brooklyn for, like, you can't get 8 back out of that, right? Like, because Brooklyn's going to say, like, we're doing you a favor.
Why are we moving? Why would Brooklyn move back just to get DeAndre Ayton when they have Nick?
Trying to get an anchor in there that can't dunk. Yeah, I don't know what you do with this. This is, I guess it's disappointing, but I like Portland so much that it's like they've, they weren't in position to get a cornerstone in this draft anyway. This
may have been the most ethical team, like, in terms of not just does their fan base deserve it, because you could make cases for Jazz, Wizards, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this was a team that never threw in the towel until like the final. They were hovering around the play-in for a while. This would have been the most ethical lottery winner, I think.
Right. And because they got to have it both ways. Like, they played the young guys because the young guys were driving success. And
also some of the older guys were injured. You got to take
that's
you gotta
true.
Take those clubs out of Chauncey Billups' bag before next season. Like that, I can't.
Yeah, I would have been fine with Portland winning the lottery. That would have been exciting. Although even like Flag isn't. Well, we'll see. I don't know what he's going to be offensively.
Well, you talk about their defense, and they had Flag, Denny Avdia,
Flag and Klingon.
What's that?
Flag and Donovan Klingon?
Number 12, nearing the end here. The Chicago Bulls, speaking of unethical, whatever. Whatever. I mean, I think this just like kind of, they're going to pay Josh Giddey and try and be right back here again next year, I guess. Like, I don't know.
And just probably will. Like, that's just where we are. I don't have a lot to say about them. They're I don't know. Yeah, maybe you trying to think like, do you package?
Actually, who's more likely to trade their pick to try and make an upgrade, Portland or Chicago?
I mean, I don't know. Is Chicago getting like a little saner?
What, based off what? Because they overvalued their own picks in the Zach LaVine trade.
Yeah, probably not, because they did just the Patrick Williams and the not trading Vooch. So I would say Chicago has to be more likely to trade this pick for a win now.
It would be like, I'm trying to look at like, where do they have? Jace Richardson has been a popular one for them, but he's like another shooting guard, point guard, just with Kobe. If they go that, you have to go best player available. So if he's there and he's on your board, but like, you're about to pay Josh Giddey, Kobe White's going to be up for a new deal soon. You have Ayo Dosunmu and Lonzo Ball. I'm not happy. I like Bulls fans, so I'm not happy they didn't win the lottery, but this team did not deserve to win the lottery. The organization itself did not deserve to win.
Would you rather the Bulls won the lottery or the Mavericks?
The Bulls. Like,
okay.
I'm sorry. Now, for the Bulls, I trace it a lot better. Well, the ownership in Dallas sucks too, so never mind. Yeah, I think I'm more annoyed that Dallas did it because they just were sacrosanct in the way that they handled the Luka Doncic stuff.
Yeah, and it's also just not that interesting if the Bulls win it, though. It's just like, okay, well, I'll take Cooper Flag, and then what is this team still, And
also, like, the Bulls' defense, like, they were ethical in the sense, like, they are trying to be exactly here in number 12 in the lottery every single year. Like, the Mavericks were traded Luka because they thought it gave them better title odds.
That's just, I know we've said it 1,000 times, but that just is I'm never going to just glide past that thinking.
The Hawks at number 13, they get the Kings pick here. This team, for me, it's just, they're going to keep this pick. It's just what's going to happen with Trae Young. I don't think that changes what they do with the pick one way or the other. It's do they try could they try and move up and dangle Trae Young in number 13 to I don't know what team would want Trae Young. Like Houston might make some sense for Trae Young, but you're not moving 13 and Trae Young for number 10. You're not even moving Trae Young for just number 10, but they're not draft because even if they keep Trae Young, my point being you just keep this pick and you're trying to kind of build gradually. And if you're keeping Trae Young, it's you think he's young enough to lead the next iteration of a team that'll be really good.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it would have been the San Antonio angle. Like, can we get that? What do they have? One other pick still of the 27
Two.
Hawks pick? They have two still?
They can swap in 26 and they own 27.
Okay. Young and the 13 doesn't get you two, I don't think, especially since 2 is going to be, well, again, the Spurs could go get Giannis and then also use 2 in a separate trade. Yeah, not a lot here. I don't think 13 is enough to be like, oh, this is the one that's going to influence a Trae Young trade.
Would you, I think I've asked you this already, would you, if you could right now, go to San Antonio, Jalen Johnson for control over your next 2 draft picks? Would you take it? Maybe they're even throwing you, the Spurs have number 14 as well. Maybe they're even throwing you that. So you're 3 draft picks back is what you'd be getting.
Jalen Johnson. So I'm getting my 26 swap and my 27 outright unprotected back,
as well as number 14 in this draft for whatever that's worth to you.
Man, I wish I'd seen like just another half season of Jalen Johnson staying healthy to have a better sense of this. Do the Spurs do that?
They should, I think.
You think?
Well,
you think Johnson's that good?
No, keep those Hawks picks. But if they were looking to straddle the line rather than go all in for Giannis, like Jalen Johnson's a pretty good fit next to Wemby.
He is a good fit. I just wonder if, like, for the level of ambition the Spurs should have in trying to build a title winner, is Jalen Johnson making $30 million a championship team player? Maybe, but I don't know. I don't love it.
It's like kind of a no from both sides type.
Maybe.
Finally, speaking of the Spurs, they're at number 14 again.
Yeah.
I don't know what you could talk me into anything for the Spurs. This just like a throw in as part of whatever mega package they get. Or do they decide to trade this pick and keep number 2?
Yeah.
This doesn't change anything for them, but they have Wemby and De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle and Devin Vassell and then 2 lottery picks and a bunch of other assets. They are absolutely a team to watch over the offseason.
I bet you they trade this one just because it's like, I don't know, they got so many incoming. And what are you going to get here? I don't know. The Spurs have historically drafted well late, but
and this more so than the number 2 pick, but with all these picks, maybe with the exception of Cooper Flagg, there's a lot of driving the car off the lot value depreciation. Sure. And with number 14 for sure, it's like, oh, we can get a lottery pick. So before that player takes the court or is drafted, there's like weird mystique to it. But once he does, it's just, it loses its luster.
Yeah. I think that's right. Fun lottery. Certainly plenty to talk about. It's one of the most intriguing ones we've had in a while. But I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Thank you for conspiring with us. Since that's what we have to talk about, I guess. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Join our Discord. Links for that in YouTube and podcast description. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a little thumbs up. Let us know what you think the most interesting maybe lottery slot is, or what has the most chaos potential. That's what we traffic in. But yeah, till next time. Thanks. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.